today's Modern Warfare 2 video, we're going over all the settings you guys need to be changing. These settings will make a huge difference in how your game feels, how it plays, and of course, how you're able to perform in game. If you haven't enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, those notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. Okay, so first, I want to start here on the keyboard and mouse screen. And the reason I want to start here is, of course, I want to show you guys that I am on controller. I don't play on keyboard and mouse, but I do believe there is, a few different things you guys could definitely do to make your game a little bit better. And of course, it happens to be with the keybinds here. You can adjust your keybinds to be able to show, exactly what you want. And there is a really cool option in here in the settings that if you go up into the top right corner, you can actually go ahead right above my face cam there. You can type in a setting to the point where that if you want to be able to find something without scrolling all the way through, you can actually just type it in right up there, and it is just going to make your life so much easier. But that is more or less that. I don't have a lot of settings to give you guys for this. Now let's jump into some controller settings here for this game, because I know a lot of you guys out there, myself included, are playing on controller. So first thing we're going to be throwing on here is, of course, you got to use the controller. Edit button layout. I don't really actually do this. I keep this on a pretty standard-ish button layout, but we'll go over that more here in a second. The first thing though is I actually have my flipped triggers. So my L2 and my R2 is now my L1 and my R1. I prefer to use the top triggers, as I do believe that you're able to ADS and shoot faster, just because, if you don't have trigger stops in your bottom triggers, you're gonna be taking more time to press that in, and that could be the difference between life and death. And specifically in Modern Warfare 2, where the time to kill is incredibly fast, that can be a pretty big thing. So if you're comfortable using L1, R1, or your top triggers on your Xbox controller, LB, RB, definitely go ahead and flip this, and you'll probably notice a big difference in how fast you're able to ADS and take people out. Stick layout preset, of course, is just on default. My controller vibration doesn't matter if it's on or off. I've just played with it on. It just kind of feels natural to me. So do whatever works for you. It's not like it's going to throw off your aim in any capacity. It's not like it's, rumbling the controller out of your hands. That'd be kind of ridiculous. Something that is pretty bad, though, that you should have off is this trigger effect. So the full haptics, listen, don't ever try this. Like, it is not good in any capacity. Don't try the full haptics. They are ridiculous. So I just keep that straight up as off. Now moving down here a little bit, we got the horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. And I like to kind of preface this here when I talk about sensitivities, is that, your sensitivity is going to be personal preference. It's not like there is a god tier sensitivity, but I'll let you guys in here on a bit of a secret. So I play in a 6.6 because, I used to play on like an 8.8, but I felt that I was missing too many shots. I felt I wasn't as accurate as I possibly could be. So I wanted to lower it down a little bit. And I figured that as soon as I lowered it down, I was still able to move around and function properly, and it's what I use on Warzone, but I was able to hit a lot more of my shots. And that makes a big difference in how many gunfights I'm able to win, and, just ultimately be able to survive longer. And then, so if you're not hitting your shots, lower your sensitivity. You don't need to play on a 2020. It's not necessary. What I've also done is I've changed my ADS sensitivity multiplier down to a 0.9. The reason I did this is because it slows me down from that standard 1.0 to even a little bit more so when I start ADSing, so it makes it even harder for me to go off target. Don't put this down too far though, otherwise it's gonna be ridiculously hard for you to be able to, get back on track with the target. I just lower it just ever so slightly, so mess around with this and see what works for you. But this is what works for me. I believe this is a great combination, so you guys can definitely try it out if you really want to. My sensitivity multiplier, I just keep this on like standard stuff. I haven't messed with this at all. No reason to switch it. It does not make sense to switch. Now, and down here in the gameplay section, my ADS behavior, of course, is on hold. We're not doing this on toggle. Toggle would basically mean that you tap the button, you zoom in, tap it, you zoom out. Don't want to do that. That's not beneficial. Don't ever go for that. My automatic sprint is on actually automatic tac sprint. That means that moving forward while standing makes your character automatically tactical sprint. And that is a hugely beneficial thing, especially when you're playing a controller, just because that you find yourself constantly mashing that sprint button, and that is what will cause your controller to have a shorter shelf life and also cause it to have stick drift. And that's pretty much like the main sort of downfall of controllers on Call of Duty, is that you end up getting stick drift. And stick drift, for those guys that aren't aware, is that when you set your controller completely down on like the table or something like that, and your character starts slowly moving, that is stick drift when you're not touching it. So that's something we definitely don't want, and you should have automatic tac sprint on to start saving your sticks. Equipment behavior is just on hold. Weapon mount activation, this is just all pretty standard stuff right here. And I do have my armor plate behavior as applied to all. Now let's get into some advanced settings. Now something that I think is a real hot topic for discussion is going to be aim assist. So my target aim assist is on. Obviously, I'm not playing with aim assist off. I mean, it's there for a reason, because controllers do actually need aim assist to be able to compete and, utilize. If you ever turned off aim assist, you'll realize it's ridiculously hard to be able to, hit all your shots like you used to. Aim assist type, I play on straight up default, but I mean, that's just because I feel like the default aim assist is perfectly fine for me, but some people prefer to run the Black Ops aim assist and they feel a little bit better with that. And some people say it feels a tad bit more sticky even. But I feel like my default, at least with the settings I got, is perfectly fine and it works out great for me. But between default and Black Ops, definitely give those a try. But it's pretty much stay away from precision and focusing. They're realistically not that great. Aim response curve type is going to be on dynamic. You want to change this 100% over from standard to dynamic. It's the reverse S curve map for fine aim rate control. Basically what this means is that there's a bit of like a ramp to it almost, and it's not like it's straight up linear where you have the same exact thing going all around. This kind of helps you a little bit more so you don't overcorrect or overcompensate or even undercompensate when you're trying to aim, just because it's a reverse S curve and it's not like just, you know, a standard thing going across the whole, you know, obviously aim assist pattern. So I believe dynamic is the way to go. It's kind of a little bit hard to explain, but dynamic is definitely a really, really good thing to be able to use. My sensitivity multiplier and focus, just 1.0. I just keep this on instant just because you don't want to have it to be a gradual thing. You 100% want, as soon as you click that ADS button, for all of your sensitivity to be just straight up right there. Definitely do not want anything else. Custom sensitivity per zoom, I have that off. Don't switch that up. I don't believe it's useful. Input dead zone, this is kind of up to you guys, but this is what I was talking about with the stick drift. So this is where it's at standard on 0.15 for right and left stick. You guys will be able to see, you know, the maximum, everything like that, the trigger. But pretty much what you guys have to be able to take note of is that you can lower it if you really want to, and they'll give you a tad bit more of that, like it's very, very responsive. Become more responsive the lower you get it. But keep in mind, if you do happen to have stick drift, you will run into issues where your character will start moving without you doing anything. So that's just kind of something you have to be aware of, that lower it enough to the point where your controller is still fine. But if it starts, you know, getting to the point where you're moving around, bump it up a little bit and you'll be good at that. The lower sensitivity dead zone you have, more or less the better. That means you have a tad bit faster reaction time, which is always a really good thing. Now to some movement behaviors. My auto move forward is on off. My tactical sprint behavior is on double tap. That's just if I actually am tapping, you know, but I have automatic tack sprint on, so that's not as much of a thing we have to worry about. Ground mantle, I have this on, but you guys can put it on off. It really doesn't matter too much. Airborne mantle is off. Automatic ground mantle is off. And we don't really have too much other stuff here. By the way, sprinting door bash, I ended up having that off, and I was like, why am I not able to just run through doors? Definitely keep that on. I didn't know what it was for a second. I was like, oh wait, that's kind of what that is. Definitely need that. And then as far as some other settings down here, we don't really have to mess with anything else under the advanced category for your controller settings. That's pretty much that. Now something in your interface settings. This is, I feel like, something that kind of goes a little bit overlooked. As far as, you know, your readability stuff, this just comes down to, I mean, obviously, can you read? So we're not really going to mess with that. I'm perfectly fine. I leave everything at default. But something you should be aware of is 100% in the HUD section here is your mini-map shape. This has the option of round and square. And if you'll notice by when you actually look at the game, my face cam's kind of covering at the moment, but the rounds mini-map is significantly smaller than the square mini-map. So you 110%, doesn't matter if it's for pubs, for Warzone, you always want to have a square mini-map. And you also want to make sure that it does have the minimap rotation on, so that way, like, you know exactly what you're doing and it's not like, you know, some weird sort of orientation. I feel like that'd be a little bit odd and make it harder to track targets and everything. So definitely have your minimap rotation on. It keeps everything straight up in front of you so you can see where you're going. Crosshairs, by the way, you definitely want to keep these on. I don't know why would somebody ever would, you know, disable these things. Definitely not a good thing to disable. Your hit marker visuals, got to keep those on. I just believe it allows you to see, you know, that you're actually hitting somebody. It's also kind of satisfying, not gonna lie, to be able to see. So definitely keep those on. Damage-based hit markers, just keep those on. It helps you be able to see, you know, how if they're one shot, so on and so forth, if it's actually going to be a full kill. So definitely keep that on. Another setting down here in the advanced interface settings is your center dot. And pretty much what this is the center dot is just a dot that's literally in the center of your screen. And what this allows you to do is to be able to see exactly where you are aiming on the game. And that is a hugely beneficial thing, because you can point your dot at like a door frame, you know, like doorway, like an alley, something like that, where you feel like people are going to be coming through. This is going to be something that you should definitely have on, So that way you can be able to see, you know, exactly where you're aiming at, as that is going to be the big difference between, you know, obviously life and death in this game, with the TTK being very, very quick. So this is a huge thing that I think is going to go a little bit overlooked, but definitely have it on. All right, now as far as some audio settings go, this is a bit of a tricky one. So for me, I'll give you guys a personal example. I play on a PC. I have Astro A40s that go through a mix amp. That mix amp goes into my Go XLR because I have a dual PC setup, and that Go XLR unit is what has my microphone audio, and it also routes all the audio from both of my computers so I can hear everything through my headset. So stuff gets a little bit jumbled in there, and I also have an Astro preset. So for me right now, I play on the headphone bass boost preset, which I may even turn off the bass boost and just play on the headphone preset. But it comes down to what headset do you have and what sounds the best to you, because footsteps are all real loud. You can hear those perfectly fine. And it's not like that's realistically the only thing you need to be able to hear. It's just the footsteps where people are coming from. So just go for whatever works best for your headset. There's not like a goated sort of choice for this. I mean, on Warzone, there's like boost high and boost low people like to switch between. But as of right now, there's just not really anything right here. We don't have a boost high and boost low. So choose what works best for you. Oh, and by the way, I do have my music volume turned down to completely 0. I don't want to hear the music at all in game. I don't like sitting at the main menu and hearing it constantly. So definitely have your music volume down to 0. So you can hear absolutely everything that's going on in the game. And down here for something that's just kind of a little bit fun is your advanced audio settings. The hit marker sound effect, I have this on the Modern Warfare 2, just hit marker sound effect. You can also change this over to classic for the old school Modern Warfare 2, so that's a bit cool, but definitely don't turn it to like off. That'd just be like weird, and just to not have that. But I just want to be able to tell you guys about that here. It's just lowering the audio settings underneath audio advanced settings, that you can mess with that and kind of see what you actually prefer. And last but definitely not least, I want to be able to show you guys some of my quality sort of like graphic settings here, because I know some people are going to be curious what I do play on. I average just underneath about 200 frames here when I'm playing the game. I have a 27-inch monitor, 165 hertz refresh rate. I have a GeForce RTX 3080 Ti. I also play on 1440p. And then here's just some of my other sort of things down here that you guys can be able to take a look at. But otherwise, I mean, it's not like these are going to be too prevalent for a lot of you guys out there. I also have 100%, of course, render resolution. I play on Fidelity Cast, as this is what actually looks the best for me, and I have it on 15. Just makes your game look a little bit sharper, and it doesn't kind of cause you any sort of like frame rate issues. I've talked about this, you know, a couple of times, or talked about this with a couple of different friends, and this works out great. And then pretty much for everything else in here, this is going to be a lot of what works for my computer personally, based on the specs I have. So don't necessarily go through and like copy all these, but more or less you don't want to be playing on some sort of like ultra high settings, as that's going to severely bog down your frame rate, and we do not want that. So also, but there's something actually that applies to like literally everybody, is at the very bottom down here, and that is actually going to be your post-processing effects. And so I have my NVIDIA reflex low latency, but this applies to console people as well. Your depth of field, you want that on off, so that way it doesn't start blurring out anything. World motion blur, take that completely off so you actually see what's going on around you. And your weapon motion blur, definitely want that off. I mean, less blurry the better. And also turn your film grain down to completely 0. Don't need any of that. And in our field of view, I play on 120 field of view. So as long as you have the option to be able to do that, I'm 99% sure consoles have the ability to be able to do it, considering the PS5, at least I was playing on PS5 for the beta, and I was playing 120. So everybody that's got 120 FOV, you should definitely be utilizing that, as that's going to allow you to see the most amount, you know, around you, which is very beneficial. I play also on affected, which this is a huge setting right here, because this means that you're going to be able to actually see your gun, and it's not going to zoom straight up into that 80 FOV if you're playing on 120. It stays at the, you know, back, which is the 120. And when you are on the 120, that's what gives you the sort of like visual effect of less recoil on the guns. And everyone knows in this game that guns have a decent amount of recoil. So just by playing on affected instead of independent, this is a huge setting that just a very minor change, as long as you can get used to it, that, I mean, it will very much so help you out. And then down here in the camera, first person and third person movement definitely changes down to the least amount possible, which is 50%. Less camera movement, the better. That allows you to stay on track and on target more often than not. So that's all my settings I got for you guys. If you happen to enjoy today's video, make sure you guys give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on. I'll see you all later. Just turn up some cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.